my computer background pointing straight at the ground. I gotta switch it.
I thought you were gonna morph in through the wall, Robert.
Yeah, there we go.
You know what? Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did try to do that. I tried to get a little closer. It didn't work.
5:15, Jay.
I would love to see that.
That's plot small.
Very good. It is now 5:15 official Apple time, and someone has not yet updated his clock behind him to show that it's 5:15. And this is the November meeting of the Board of Aviation Commissioners for the City of Warsaw, which I will call to order. You all should have received various documents on board pack or physically if you've not accessed those. And the first thing on the agenda would be review and approval of the October minutes.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, claims. Nick, what do you have particularly that you would like to discuss with us this fine evening?
The main ones out of the ordinary, $2,406.20 to DTS Aviation Equipment. The bottom loading valve on the avgas truck has not been working right for a few months, and that required the guys to have to climb up on top of the truck and open up the hatch and watch the fuel come up. With winter operations coming in, I told the guys we needed to make that more of a priority. We were actually having trouble sourcing the actual parts for the truck. And so they found that through Findlay Aviation, which is DTS over in Findlay, Ohio. And we got that installed, and now the truck is bottom loading. They don't have to climb up on top of it anymore. So we're glad for that. Keep the guys safe. Let's see here. The G&G hauling and the Fenton Brown, that was for the patching work that we needed to do over between hangars 20 and 21. We had a storm tile break, and the wastewater department came out and got that fixed for us. And then we needed to backfill that with some rock and some new asphalt. And so that's what those prices or those costs were for. Lake City truck sales, that was for the truck that we purchased that you guys approved last month. Vertower, the 6,000, that's our annual contract for our tracking program that we use for airport aircraft counts, takeoffs, landings, operations, all that kind of good stuff. And then, as you see, we had a load of jet fuel and some Morrison Aviation Services charges for battery carts last month as well. And so we'd need a separate approval for those for $28,301.58. Any other questions I can answer?
How's that truck running?
Great. I will hopefully have an update at our next board meeting. The guys have been working really hard. We got the new windsock installed, and they took apart the old tetrahedron that we had, all of the markings around that. They've re-powder coated everything, cleaned everything, and are putting that down. And then they actually scraped down about 3 inches, and we used some of the leftover rock from the patch job, and we have rocked that whole area so that it'll be a very good contrast, a white background with the colored top. And so we'll hopefully have some fun pictures to show at next month's board meeting for that.
Good.
Make sure I understood. You said that it's separate expense of $28,300 and something. Do we have a separate claim form related to that?
Correct. That's Ascent Aviation Group 2810158.
Okay.
And then the Morrison Aviation for 200, and that's for our contract with them for FBO services provided.
Okay, so that's the total of these two things.
Correct.
Okay, I
Yep.
understand now. Okay.
Did you make the motion, John?
All right, well, I move that we accept the claims, especially the $28,101.58 for Accent Aviation and the $200 for Morrison Aviation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Claim forms are coming down to you. Okay, Robert, did you change your background because I made fun of your clock? I'm sorry.
Here's the deal. I made a really nice change in my office so that there was no longer. I just put the clock down, okay? You're the first person to call me out on that. And so if that doesn't make it into the media write-up for this week, that'd be great.
That's right.
All right, let me share my screen here real quick. A bunch of housekeeping items, basically. But I've got a couple questions for Nick, a little bit unprepared. But last meeting, if you remember, we approved an on-call services contract. And under that contract, what we did in the last month was completed a bill application to plan, design, and construct the early implementation phases of the terminal area program. So that included a bunch of different things: airfield infrastructure changes, a preliminary layout, a fact sheet, the supporting narrative for the bill application. Also part of that was a meeting that was held with local, state, and DB officials, Zimmer Biomed officials, and representatives to discuss the potential program that rolled into the CIP for 2024. And so with that work, we do have an invoice for this month. So would like to present a motion for board approval and Jay's signature on CHA invoice 58412.9, which is the first invoice for $15,000. And that is this one right here. So essentially this was for the work that we did on the bipartisan infrastructure law, ATP NOFO, which is the application to kind of get the ball rolling on a lot of these things from the terminal program. Nick, the question that I have for you that's kind of off the cuff is, I do have that fact sheet available if the board would like to see it. I can present it now, or I can send it in a package that you can distribute amongst the board members for their perusement.
I mean, I think if you want to show it quickly, we can give a little snippet of what we've been working on to try and get this bill funding here.
Sure. So essentially the whole point of this, we all know that the terminal building was constructed in '56. It's a little smaller. So what we're trying to do in this phase, well, just to say phase, but what we're trying to do in this effort is there's a pocket of funding out there available from the FAA that we're trying to tap into that otherwise wouldn't be available to the airport. And that specifically is the ATP, the bill funding for terminal programs at airports. And so with some of the local and regional corporate sponsors coming back and the stakeholders in the airport wanting to invest in the area, we found it pertinent that we need to have a plan in place for infrastructure improvement at the airport. And so this is very much kind of a first draft, trying to get an understanding of what the potential project scope could be, how it could be potentially phased, what it would potentially look like, where it could potentially go. So really that initial development plan, what you're looking at in the middle there, I know, it looks very fancy. That's the point of it. And one of the reasons what we're showing this full build out is this is the vision potentially for the airport. And obviously this is not all going to be built in one go, but if the airport had all the money in the world, this is a potential option for the airport. Now how this breaks down from a phasing perspective, you see A, B, C, and D here. So tying into some of those infrastructure improvements that we're doing with the RSAD program and the Runway 927 program. So how can we marry those two projects for the benefit of the airport and not lose sight of the sustainability of the long-term viability of the airport? So what you see here is some potential phases, new apron, new parking lot, potential new terminal, and one apron. And then what you see in the middle here is a long-term vision for the airport. If we were to show a phase one, what you see here in the dashed is all long-term. And then in the first phase, this would potentially be a new terminal apron, connectivity to the existing airfield infrastructure, and changes to taxiway Charlie. So this is kind of what we're moving forward with from a programming perspective, concurrent with the RSAD and the runway 927 runway project. So they're not competing buckets of funding, they're subsequent buckets of funding. And so what we're trying to do is put the airport in a position to be successful for multiple endeavors at the same time. So the reason I wanted to present this was I wanted the board to understand where your money is going, and what CHA is doing on behalf of the airport, from a development and planning perspective. Any questions on this?
Yeah, does the plan, make sure I'm doing the perspectives right here, does the plan, do you have the terminal in the same place as the existing terminal?
South.
This is,
South.
no, this is.
Where is the
this
terminal?
greenfield site.
Where is the terminal now?
So it'd be right up in this
Up
area.
there, okay,
Yep.
so it's up a,
So, yeah,
Okay.
so.
Point out
where you
the
see
zipper hanger for it.
The terminal, the existing terminal is right here,
Okay.
where my mouse is.
got it,
Yeah. So
okay.
this is basically an entrance road that you come directly down Airport Road
Mhm.
into the new terminal area.
Okay, that,
Instead of coming across.
okay, I saw
on
the airport road too, so
Yep.
that tells me where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that
Yeah,
orange
so-
is being removed, right?
Correct.
Yeah, one of the big things here is, you know, right down here in the lower corner, what we tried to put on the, this is what we call a fact sheet. So when was the airport built? What's the plan? Why and how much? The available land for terminal development, a lot of times airports are in need of ground for future development and have to acquire land, but for the airport here, this is a 25-acre tract of land located perfectly at the intersections of the runway. And it has been identified on the ALP for future terminal area development, so no property acquisition or residential displacement is necessary, which is a pretty critical step. So it's a long-term vision, it's a lofty goal. We understand that there are a lot of challenges to be able to do this, but the emphasis here is that we're trying to put the airport in a position to be successful long-term. And so this is not a project that is going to have a shovel in the ground in a couple months. This is going to take a lot of coordination and collaboration with local and regional stakeholders, with state and federal agencies, in order to put this size program together.
Robert,
Yeah.
is there a regulatory reason why you didn't show the east-west taxiway just running straight west instead of making that jog?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that are going to come out of the runway safety area determination, and part of that is I don't have it available now, so I'll try to, if you have questions, I'll try to get a little bit closer to the detail, but there's a runway protection zone that is off of 927, and right now, that runway protection zone runs over the railroad tracks to the west of the airport. And so there is some thought behind moving the threshold of 9 to the east, of the 9 end to the east, which would shift the runway protection zone into this area here. And so bumping up this runway, or this taxiway, allows it, this little intersection location for taxiway Bravo and taxiway Alpha to remain outside of the RPZ. It does set up, and it is not for, but we're not precluding, or excluding, I should say, the potential for any type of navigational aid improvement on the 9 end. But really, the jog and the taxiway is for the purposes of moving the runway threshold to the east to account for the RPZ that would then take up this area.
And does that go back to the issue of the FAA not liking 27?
Yes,
Yeah,
so-
and 18.
The geometry of
Yeah.
those two runways, yep. And that's what that,
Yeah,
the
so-
RSAD is the Runway Safety Area Determination Grant. And that's what we're still working through the FAA on. And so with the potential of us needing to shift that runway, like Robert was saying, with the RPZ, we've got to keep that ground clear.
Yeah, so essentially what's happening now is this red line is a very poor example of what the runway safety area is. And so if we move that threshold to the right, we can take those RSAs out and not impact 1836, which is a big thing, because one of the things that we don't want to do is take out a bunch of pavement on 1836. And so since there's land to the east, and we've already talked about a potential runway extension out there that covers the total runway length that we would need for 927, one of the things that we've been investigating is moving that threshold of 9 to the east to accommodate for the RSA uncoupling, if that makes sense. But if we change that threshold location from, say here to up here, where the new threshold might be, there is an RPZ that extends out like this, that would impact that taxiway alpha location.
Is that red box you've shown the farthest east contemplated moving that threshold?
Yeah, I think it's, without pulling up the drawing, I think it's like right at the end
It's-
of this apron.
Yeah, it's right in there. It's between 900 and 1,000 feet.
Yeah, because there's I believe, I don't know if it's shown on here. No, it's not shown on here.
We can talk
were
about this more
initially-
next month's
We were
meeting
initially
too.
discussing until we reused a portion of Charlie. We were initially discussing threshold taxiway in this location, which is like right at the edge of this apron. So this is about where the new threshold would be.
And we can go over that at next month's meeting or January's meeting once we get some feedback from the FAA on that. We've submitted a
Right.
drawing to the FAA. In fact, I was going to bring that up here, so I'm going to jump the gun just a minute. We submitted that drawing, is it June 26th or 7th to the FAA, and we still haven't heard anything back. So I'm going to probably be preparing a letter. I'll have Jay sign it, and we'll be sending that up to the manager up at the ADO to figure out why it's taking 3 to 4 months just to get. I mean, this is something they should turn around in 2 or 3 weeks for at the very most, not 3 or 4 months. And so
30 days. Yeah, it's about 30 days is what we should expect from it.
and waiting this long, it's just prolonging our projects, pushing us down that proverbial waiting list, and we've got a lot of stuff to do, and we can't be waiting on them to do it.
Yeah,
So
good. I like strongly worded letters for the
Yeah.
FAA.
okay,
Bring it on.
I will work on that for you, Jay.
So if that's the case, that east-west could be extended straight west to at least that anticipated threshold and then angled up northwestward.
The taxiway, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, but we've already got the asphalt in the ground, and so just rehabbing that is easier and cheaper than it is to relocate it.
yeah, but once you start doing that, the ground lost is lost south of that.
When we show you the drawings, it'll make sense.
Yeah, I couldn't quite hear what you were saying, but
He's concerned that we will lose too much ground south of that taxi lane if we don't, or the taxiway, excuse me, if we don't shift it a little bit further south. But when you see the drawings, you'll see that it is right there. I mean, we're not talking very much ground that we're actually losing with that, with the proposed bend in the diagonal on there.
Okay. So right now, thank you for showing us that, Robert.
Yeah, no problem.
Even though this is not an immediate thing we're gonna be dealing with, it's helpful to see some vision actually written out. You need a motion, hopefully to approve your invoice, correct?
That is correct, yep.
So-
For the on-call service, for the general services, and all of that money has been attributed to the bill application, the fact sheet, and the meeting that was held for that, and the supporting narrative for the bill application.
Well, John has made that motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve CHA invoice 58412.9-01 for $15,000 for work on the bill application. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carried.
Very good. So second, we have another invoice for the obstruction mitigation process, for the obstruction mitigation project, sorry. This is multiple months, so need to make a motion for board approval, and Jay's signature on 58412.5, which is $3,056.55, but the local contribution is $152.82.
And I see the words "no change to schedule," Robert. Are you confident in that? Every time you say that, I'm gonna ask you, so.
Yeah, no, so we do the coordination meetings once a month, which is a lot of the time spent on this invoice so far. We did do some obstruction evaluation for potential airspace work when they put up the cranes doing the 7460s. And every single one of those meetings, we haven't had anything where there's been an impact to schedule, purchase, or deliveries. So still on track per the schedule. I can't remember the exact date, but it'll be done third quarter next year.
Okay.
So I need a motion from the board to approve the 152.
I move that we accept the invoice 58412.5 for the amount of $3,056.55.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carried.
Very good. And then lastly, unless we want to talk about taxiway Bravo more, we did start the wildlife hazard site visit. The overnight site visit was completed in October last month. Simon and his environmental group is working on the documentation and the draft analysis, and we expect that. He told me next week's Thanksgiving, so I'm going to say end of the month. I don't know if he was thinking that next week was Thanksgiving. So we should have that submitted to Nick by the end of November. And I'd like to make a motion for board approval and Jay's signature on CHA invoice 58412.5-1, which is the AIP 23 Rec 1 for $11,001.80. The local share on that is $550.09.
You didn't camp out yourself overnight, did you, Robert?
I did, look, I tried.
I can picture you with s'mores and a campfire, and I don't know why.
Well, what we did was we did some thermal imaging with a drone to see if we can pick up any deer or any of the other or creatures that we were looking out for. But they would not take me on the site visit, I think for good reason, but not for lack of trying.
Okay. You come camp overnight here anytime you feel like it, Robert.
Well, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried.
Any motion for the board on this invoice?
I make the motion, we accept this one for, what is it, how much money?
$11,001.80.
Okay, and our portion is?
550.09.
0.09?
Yep.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
And that's all I have, unless Nick would like to talk further on taxiway Bravo.
Nope. I'll get the letter to
Very
Jay.
good.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
No?
Okay, thank you, Robert. Always good to see you.
No problem, thank you.
Clock back up.
Oh, there we go.
I finished by 6:38, according to that clock.
That's right. You're still ahead of us, Robert. Okay, Nick, what do you have for us tonight?
No, nothing too much. Different than where we were last month. We're still down about, what was it? About 50,000 gallons in fuel from where we were last year, just a little under that. Avgas is still up, but Jet A is still down, though it is coming back slowly but surely. So, unless you guys have any glaring questions or issues, we do have some other fun stuff to talk about tonight.
What's the activity with the president of Zimmer? Is he still,
They were
contemplating?
here 4 days last week, 3 or 4 days last week. The week before that, they were here for a week or two. I don't know if it was the CEO or who, but their jets have been in and out quite a bit the last 3 or 4 weeks. So,
Okay. So there's activity there.
Good.
yep.
Good for everybody. Anything else for Nick?
What's the status on the sewer line?
It will be, today they did, I don't know what the test is called, but there's a machine that goes through the sewer line to make sure there's no sags in the pipe anywhere. We're waiting for those results. We should have them tomorrow, and then it should be, the top layer should be milled out on Monday and asphalt put down on Tuesday.
Is that line running all the way to where the new
Correct.
terminal would be at? It's running
that-
that far out?
It is not running that far out, so I can pull it up. Oh, that's not the right button. Bear with me one quick second. So that line, Gene, runs straight down Airport Road.
Yeah.
This is where the lift station was installed.
Right?
It was built deep enough so that with the future terminal expansion, we will be able to run sewer line all the way there. Currently, that line runs straight down Airport Road to our main gate entrance. And then it actually goes through the fence there, and it follows this taxiway, or taxi lane straight down, and then it's gonna come across, and that's not exact, but that's pretty close to what that line looks like right there. And so the section from the gate down and over, that's what is gonna get, the top layer of dirt that is there is gonna get pulled out, and then that's where the asphalt will go in.
So it's not gonna run all the way, they're not gonna put the line all the way down yet?
No, it's stubbed in so that when that happens, the stub is already in the ground and that manhole's there. But we did not, there was no need
It's not
to run
going anything,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing there to tie into, so we did not put that in, yeah.
Yeah. As long as you got a straight shot to it, it's not a problem.
Yep.
At at the gate there, what's the approximate invert on the manhole?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's all I had.
I can ask and get that back to you, Dan.
Anything else for the manager before he shares this fun stuff that he's promised us? Okay, share away, Nick.
Well, I'd like to welcome DJ and Austin Kierpaw and Jeremy Morrison up to give a little presentation here to us tonight. That's the wrong. And I don't want to steal their thunder, so I'll let them just tell you guys what's going on.
I don't know how much thunder there is, but I don't know what you want to know. We're sitting around a table, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. And the idea was presented to start a flying to teach flying here. So Austin and I aren't known to sit around too long. So I think, what is it, week and a half later, we had bought a plane, brought it down. Jeremy Morrison Aviation, he's putting glass in it right now, so it's a good solid IFR platform for our students. We're working on, we'll hopefully solidify something this upcoming Friday on a CFII and an MEI in a couple of years. Actually, just last week, Austin and I purchased another small multi-twin engine with counter-rotating props, which is really desirable for students. And so late 2024, early 2025, that plane will be available. So this will be a turnkey place where when the student's done, he'll have his multi-commercial. We thought it was important to kind of bring that back to Warsaw. I started my flying here several years ago, and unfortunately, due to some unfortunate circumstances and actions on the management at that time for that flying club, I decided to move elsewhere to Rochester and finish my flying. So we thought it's time to bring it back. We've got a great mechanic. We're going to work really closely with Nick King to make sure he's happy with everything that we're doing. But we're excited. We're hoping January, barring weather, we can actually start taking students. And I know Nick has talked with the local schools. So hopefully that'll attract the students so they don't have to go all the way to Goshen or Plymouth for their flying. They can come stay right here in Warsaw, so it'll be good for the local board here. So any questions you guys have?
So these guys came and asked what they needed to make sure everything was good by the board. I wrote up a commercial operator's contract similar to what all of our other vendors at the airport have. Due to the nature of aircraft rental and flight training, their hours are 24 hours a day. I mean, students need to learn how to fly at night, and so depending on what time that student needs to fly, it is a 24-hour business. They will be offering the aircraft for both flight training services and aircraft rental, so they fall underneath our airport minimum standards, Part 2, Section D, and Part 2, Section E. They have met and exceeded all of the requirements that we have as a board or as an airport with insurance, hangar space, which will be coming as well. They just purchased a hangar for this aircraft on the north side of the ramp. So I'm very, very excited that we've got a flight school that's going to be coming back to Warsaw. Just to show what they were talking about, this is the aircraft that is going to be used and a mock-up of what the cockpit is going to look like for them, and the flight training device that DJ was talking about. It is an FAA-approved flight training device, so students can actually log time in that for towards their ratings. So it's a very exciting time to get something like this going back at Warsaw, something that we've needed for a while.
Nick and I had a chance to talk about this at length, and I told him I thought it was a fantastic idea. I very much appreciate your investment into this project and into this program. Obviously, the airport will benefit. More kids flying, I think, just speaks great of the opportunity that's available out there. And again, I thank you all for your investment and time in this and taking an idea. Is it safe to say they were sitting at the round table out there?
One of them, yeah.
Well, typically that's where those ideas occur, and you guys acted on it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, and we thank you for your interest, and we certainly hope you are as successful can be.
Hey, we just want to get some kids learning to fly and be safe, so that's the goal.
It's great.
So what will you need from us? Do you have something that has been approved by council yet, or are you just telling us this is coming?
Well, couple different things. Thank you, DJ. First off, they are asking the board to waive their right of first refusal to purchase hangar 21A so they can store this aircraft in there. So pending the board waives that right, we need a motion for that.
We don't want to buy any hangars, do we, gentlemen?
I'll make the motion that we waive our first right of purchase on 21A.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the signature goes with that project, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, so that,
You're just giving us the signature
yep.
page, so.
And so then we just, before you sign, John, I apologize, we need to approve a land lease. So this land lease will run for D&D maintenance from now through December of 2043 with one option to renew for 10 years at that time, which is our standard airport land lease.
Okay, is that the signature that goes with that lease?
Correct.
Okay,
There's no signature required on the right.
or the waiver.
Correct.
Okay,
That's
we got it.
okay.
We just need the motion.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the lease with,
That's
who is it? Ian, what's the name of the
D&D
entity?
or D&D maintenance.
D&D
LLC.
Maintenance LLC. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
And then the last thing, I could not get to print out because my printer wasn't working this afternoon, but I will get it to Jay for signature. We just need an approval for their license to perform commercial aeronautical services at the Warsaw Airport. And that is the document that all commercial operators need to have on file with the airport. There is a $150 a year fee that's prorated, and then it'll get billed again in January for that. So we just need an approval for that, and once it's approved, I'll make sure the four of you get it tomorrow, once my printer's working.
Okay. I hear a motion to approve a commercial license agreement with,
I'll make the motion to approve the commercial license agreement.
And that would be with Lake City Aviators LLC. That is the name of the
Second.
flight school.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
And that's all I have.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
DJ, you mentioned talking to the schools. Have you already done that?
That conversation has been initiated. So yes, they're aware. We won't see, I don't think, that outflow of kids until probably next year when they sign up for their yearly classes. I put a bug into, Warsaw works with Tippy and
Yep.
Triton, you said?
Correct.
I put a bug in Tippy's air myself with my kids being there, mostly because I want my kids to learn to fly. But they have a really good ground school at Warsaw that we want the other schools to really go to, and that'll help them secure a better. They'll make them safe. They'll learn a lot of the ground rules and book work, obviously, on the ground before they actually get behind an aircraft and fly. So that's
Have
extremely
you gotten
important.
any hint of how much interest there is from students yet,
So
young people?
I don't really know.
So about 7 or 8 years ago, I worked with the Warsaw Area Career Center to start a ground school, basic ground school at the high school. There was a very large interest in that, and so the school corporation wound up hiring Eric Coburn, retired Warsaw police officer, who is an advanced ground instructor, and he has been teaching that class at Warsaw for the last 7 or 8 years. It started, my very first intern was in the inaugural class. He's actually now a police officer in charge of the City of Warsaw's UAV program here in town, Mason. And so it has grown from a class of 7 or 8 students to having 4 or 5 periods. I don't know off the top of my head. We've had 2 interns that have now turned into, this year we've actually got 2 part-time employees, 2 students that are working 15 out to 20 hours a week at the airport, learning how to fuel, maintain equipment, maintain the grounds or the fields. And the high school is sending anywhere from 8 to 10 students a year up to Goshen to learn how to fly. And that is students from our community that's driving half an hour, 40 minutes north of town to go learn how to fly. And, you know, that we want to see that come back to Warsaw.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes,
We'll see
we
those
do.
Warsaw and Wawasee kids driving this way. I don't see the Wawasee kids driving to Goshen, even though it's maybe closer.
it's about the same. So we've got some feelers out to Wawasee as well. And Whitco's the other underserved community. They don't have any, Whitco County does not have a airport, period.
Right.
And so I've actually worked with their career center in the past. I had a couple students that were interested in coming to work for the airport part-time, wound up not working out, but we've put those feelers out to make sure they're aware of it as well. So we're we, the airport, are trying to support this as much as we can. I'm excited because now I'll have an airplane that hopefully I won't have to muscle too many students out. I can go out and rent this airplane and keep my currency here at Warsaw instead of going to Fort Wayne or Goshen to stay current. And so those types of, having that available, that's something we haven't had in several years. So it's really nice to bring that back.
Good,
Super.
thank you.
Glad to have you, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
this
thing you
will
need
be
to know
great.
too is we're easygoing, so if you see any issues, do not be afraid to talk to Austin, Jeremy, or myself, and we'll correct it right away. We don't want to cause any rift. We like this management that's currently here. We're very happy with it, so
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Very good.
Anything else for us tonight, Nick?
No, sir.
Okay, well, you're gonna get me to Milford on time, so, next meeting is, December 11th?
I think that is correct. 12th.
12th, December
Yep,
12th.
December 12th.
And, so hearing no other business, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, folks.
Did you have that correct email?
Is it Ezale?
Ezale, yeah.
Is there a space?
I'll make
No,